Welcome back to the Wax Quill Podcast. Woohoo!
Today, we're talking about 5 differences between your first draft and your second draft. Here are things that I've learned as I've been finally moving on from first drafting all my books and actually working on one of them. I guess it's my WOP. I finally have a work in progress that's not a first draft. So that's nice. Let me tell you about this first draft. What I did was I first wrote it on paper. It was the second book that I finished, so I call it my second book total. Finished writing it by hand in 2020, and then honestly, I spouted it out in about 3 months, and then I've just kind of been sitting on it, and then I tried to rewrite it, start at the beginning by hand again, and it was a completely different story, completely different feel. The characters were much darker, and it was just kind of weird. So I stopped and then go through again, and I decided, you know what, I can cut this in half. So I pulled like one of the characters out. I pulled actually 2 or 3 of them out and part of the situation out and put that in a completely different story, which I dictated, and it's in my little recording device. And then I came back to what was left of it, which is really the meat of the original story. It's delicious. So I had the remains of it, and so I dictated a new story for it based a lot closer to the first draft that I had written down. And so I've been dictating it, right? I haven't even finished dictating. And then I had that interview with Jalen Tellis, and he said, "Oh, go for it. Do your second draft." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I can do this." So I haven't technically finished the second draft or first draft of this new story. So yeah, I don't even know what draft this is, full disclaimer, but it's basically the second draft because it's been years since I looked at it, and I'm not using up the second version that I wrote like at all, hardly at all. So, anyway, this is the draft on paper for the first time since I wrote it. So, I feel like that counts as a second draft. First thing that I learned with this is it's a lot easier to write the second draft than it is to write the first draft. I'm typing it out from scratch, okay? The dictated version, I got a little app that transcribes it, and everything was going great at first when I was testing it out. Now I'm going back and trying to read what I had said and type it out, and it's a nightmare. Let me just read some of those. Why not? Let's just get it done. This is from one of the sections that I've been trying to write, and I've had to just write them all from scratch. I try to get an idea of like, oh yeah, this is where they were. This is what they were talking about. Oh yeah, bring up that point, that point. Okay. And then I have to just write it all again. So let me just read this to you. This is how ridiculous it is. The Duke looked over the sheets laying on the table again, shuttered well. It is very worrisome, but I'm glad I'm not a part of it. Actually came for something else, not just to check up on the smile. What is it? He said. Something wrong. You look worried. Grass Court De Niro, nearly time for finally time. You've been teasing me about this for decades now. Do give us a smile. This one doesn't seem sad. I haven't meant to, lad. I haven't been able to say. It's not all up to me. But anyway, I just want you to know, case something happens to me, it was you need are in my shaping box. Sorry. I can't go on. It's just ridiculous. Not very helpful. Anyway, so I don't think that counts as a draft. And it's in and of itself, despite all the efforts I put into creating it, the end product is awful. So we do it again. So it's a lot easier. I know the characters much better. I've been able to add a completely new character. I took out the villain and put him in the other story. And so I've had to create a new villainess, and she's awesome and she fits the part so much better. And everything just makes more sense with her. So that's been really nice. And I've been able to go through the history more because I can make more decisions. I know where the story's going. I know that the characters work together. I know that the plot is working because I've been testing it out a lot. So Second drafts are freaking awesome. A lot of fun. Number 2, you finally get to delete stuff. Yay! So my opening scene that I wrote, the very first draft, the first scene that I wrote by hand, was the scene that I wrote yesterday, one of them, and it's actually about 15 pages into the book. So I've been able to add things and delete things. I've deleted an entire character who I thought was important but isn't, completely from both versions of the book, 2 of them actually. And I've been able to delete an entire like prologue that I wanted to have. It's gone. And so that's been really nice. I've been able to move around the things that I thought needed to be at the beginning, and they didn't. They can be later on, which is where they now are. And the story is flowing much better than it was before. So, love that delete button. I really try hard in my first drafts, dictated or written by hand, not to erase things. That's why I write in a pen, because it makes it hard to erase just little scratches. Anyway, it's fun to finally be like, this is useless. Get rid of it. And it's gone. And it's great. So that's been a lot of fun. Very satisfying. And then I can rewrite it for something else. Lovely. And I have a lot more ideas about what needs to be deleted than I did when I was writing the first draft. So that's also very nice. Number 3, names. I usually dictate my books, and for that like torn section of this book that I wrote into something else, I don't even know the names of the villain or his assistant or the main character's parents, or like, I don't know their names. So I have dad and mom and villain guy and some guy and street lady. Anyway, and then I just stick with them. Somehow they're always consistent, which is really great. But now I'm able to play with names. I've named the language, and that was a lot of fun. I've named the powers. I've named the father character in this book. I've named the wife, who's new, right? She's new. And all these other things. And it's starting to become pretty. And, the first draft was really ugly, even though I loved it so much. It's just starting to actually be enjoyable, you know? It's like the difference between a sweet newborn baby and a toddler that can kind of do things and chitter chat with you and play games and be fun, versus a newborn, which is adorable and you love dearly and would do anything for, but they just kind of sit there and don't do much, you know? Hopefully, it's a good thing to know. Anyway, number 4, it's nice to be able to actually enjoy my story, and it's fresh because I haven't looked at it for a long time. Like I said, I tried rewriting it. I didn't get far at all. I didn't get past really the, what is it called? The inciting event, that first little big event that starts off the story. Sorry, guys, it's late. I'm so tired. I didn't get past that before I was like, this just isn't working. This is too dark. This isn't how I wanted it to be. And so now I'm able to write the scenes and just enjoy them because I know what the characters are going to say. And it's so much fun to see them interact and get angry with each other and joke with each other and plot to kill someone else. And it's just so lovely. It's so much more fun. I kind of said that before. I said it was easier before. Now I'm saying it's more fun. Those are different. So that's number 4. Number 5, I actually have a number 6. It's a secret. Number 5 is I actually have the confidence with this one to share it with other people. And I know what feedback is useful and what is not, because I've already shaved my own feedback away from it. I've already seen it for what it is because I put it aside for so long. And now I can see, oh, this character isn't working. The problem that I have between these two characters is this complete character, and it's just not working. And so let's just take them out and replace it with this other character over here. Oh, beautiful dynamic. That's working so much better. And that resolves the whole backstory that wasn't making sense before, and the motivation for the main character that was just kind of weird and felt like a really plot holy. Anyway, maybe I should back up. I shared the story because it used to be when I was writing my stories by hand, my first like 3 or 4, I didn't share the first one with anyone, and I'm glad. But the first 4, I think, I read to some people. Angie, my sister, was one of them. And I would get their feedback as I was writing. I would write a section, send it off, or record it and send it to them on Marco Polo. And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, it's great, or this part doesn't make sense. And then it would just really keep me revved up to keep writing, which I now think is a horrible practice. But it did get me through writing 4 books. So I think at the time it's what I needed, was just that accountability, maybe, just to have someone else excited for what I was writing. And that was lovely, but I don't need it now. But I am sharing this second draft as I write it. Each day I'll send like the new section of it to my sister, and it helps me to feel accountable, but it also isn't so shameful, should I say, because the first drafts were awful. So bad. Plot holes everywhere, changes everywhere, which is what a first draft is for, like you get halfway through and you're like, oh, you know what, that character isn't doing anything, let me just cut them out and give their responsibilities to this other character who's already here, and you make changes halfway through. And that was very confusing for someone who wanted to keep up with the story but was only getting the first draft version of it. So now it's much prettier, and I can be like, oh, I thought about this change. What do you think? Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe add this part too. Oh, that fixes everything. And it's great because she saw the first one and she knows the feeling I wanted for it. So now I'm able to share it, not feel completely ashamed, and actually get valuable feedback. Because with the first draft, I kind of knew what people were going to say about it before I handed it out, because I knew what the big obvious problems were, because I was like putting band-aids on them and like taping everything together, and it looked awful. It was barely functional. But now it's much prettier and much more shareable. So there's that. And then number 6 is my favorite, and I did not think this would be a thing, but I am so excited to discover this beautiful fact. Second drafts, in my opinion now, are where you put your magic system. Yeah. Before I had kind of an idea. It's like, oh, I want people to be able to, certain people are really good at like influencing objects, and there's a price for it. I'm not really sure what it is, but it does this thing, and somehow it works. And the main character can kind of do it, but not. And that was it. And so people would ask me, like my mom and my sister would ask me, so how does this work? I'm kind of confused. Before you said that couldn't happen, but now it's happening. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It's just, I'll fix it later. And now I'm able to fix it and make rules, and it's beautiful, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Anyway, writing is fun. It's not just enjoyable, it's also fun when you get to the second draft. It's enjoyable in the first draft to see the process and challenge yourself and, feel like, wow, I accomplished something incredible. Look at this beautiful newborn book. But now it's fun. Not just enjoyable, but fun. Anyway, so this is for you. If you're struggling with your book, then I hope you're watching this podcast, because that's what this is for. That's all I have to say. Let me know how you are doing with your book, what draft you're in, what you've learned so far in the comments below. I do love to read them. I really try to answer. I don't always get to it. I'm doing my best. I'm working on it. Anyway, now go write your book. It's waiting for you. Go nurture it.